a brief moment to review the 2018 Yamaha MT-10. This is my personal owned bike. I have about 600 miles on it. A lot of the videos that I found online were either European or they were just a simple riding video or people's first ride on them. A couple other guys had some specs that they'd kind of made a small review on. So I figured I'm just going to throw something together for now. It's just going to be all basically specs in my personal opinion. And then maybe, the next video I can make is a riding video to kind of show, what this bike, has as far as speed and power. I'd eventually like to turn this into a sport tour, so I'd like to do some videos as far as installation of the bags, the top case, the side bags, and the front windshield. I previously came from riding a 2014 Yamaha Raider, and so I kind of went from one end of the spectrum to the other. So this is my first sports bike where mostly what I rode were different cruisers. I learned to ride on a YZF R6, and that was a great bike. So I knew I would have no issue as far as jumping on something like this and to kind of familiarize myself with a sport bike. So to start, like I said, this is the 2018 Yamaha MT-10. So it's the same thing as the FZ-10, which was the previous years. It was 2016, 2017 was the FZ-10. They just decided to make it the same worldwide. The MT series were primarily in Europe up until this year, so they've now just renamed it all to just kind of be in the same group. The 2018 model comes in two different colors. You have the matte gray with the high-vis yellow wheels and the high-vis trim, where the other color is Yamaha Team Blue, which gives you blue rims. It gives you a couple of different areas that have black paint on it, and a couple of the plastic pieces here are blue on the other bike. I personally didn't like that color. I like the high-vis yellow wheels. I think it just looked cleaner overall. These bikes start at about $12,999, and I think out the door I paid just a little over $14,000 for it here in central Pennsylvania. So that kind of gives you this, what the tax is sitting at and some of the title and tags as well. Like I said, I previously rode a 2014 Yamaha Raider S, put about 5,300 miles on it. Unfortunately, was involved in an accident, which wasn't my fault. I had somebody pull out in front of me, so it totaled the bike, and that's how I ended up with this one. So like I said, I completely jumped, from one spectrum to the other. That was a 1900cc bike. This is a 1000, or the specific spec is a 998cc inline 4. And the other bike was, like I said, 1900cc V-twin. The inline 4 is derived from the R1. It is detuned to 160 horsepower versus the 200 on the Super Sport, and they changed the components inside the motor to give you more power at your mid-range versus the high end. So they wanted to make this more of just a street-friendly bike and give you something that you could just kind of ride around. So I didn't go with the R1 because I wanted something that I could tour with. I like to do a lot of long-distance riding, but at the same time I like to do some different sport riding and to be able to have some fun. And I figured this would be the best of both worlds. It definitely did take me a little bit to get used to having the front end more underneath me. I kind of called it a ghost front end because you really didn't see it, where on the Raider, it's stuck so far out in front of you. This bike comes equipped with a 4.5 gallon tank with a gallon of reserve, and it averages, Yamaha claims, about 30 miles to the gallon. The best that I got was probably about 38, and that was just casual riding. And obviously the more you horse around on it, the less you're going to get. The total weight on this bike is about 463 pounds wet. I don't want to compare it. Obviously, I can't compare it to the Raider because the Raider is a totally different bike. I'm just kind of giving you my opinions coming from a heavy cruiser versus this. My Raider was about 760, 780 pounds. So it definitely changed a drastic bit as far as, the handling of the bike and something different to get used to. So, like I said, it has the cross-plane inline 4, phenomenal running motor. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'll definitely start it up so you can kind of hear it and be able to just get just a little feel for what the motor sounds like. So the first thing I want to talk about is the suspension and the chassis on the bike. The chassis is the Delta Box aluminum frame, identical to the R1. A lot of the components they've pulled off the R1 to stick onto this bike. I've seen different places that Yamaha is claiming that this is not a naked R1, but I agree with a lot of guys on the forum that it essentially is. They've taken a lot of parts and kind of replicated them for this bike from the R1, and you know, but it rides like no other, you know, like every other super sport. It's just it's a phenomenal, you know, piece of machinery. The front is equipped with dual 320 millimeter disc brakes, and the back has a 220 millimeter disc brake, fully equipped with ABS. And on the suspension wise, you have fully adjustable KYB inverted forks up front, and you have the single piggyback shock in the rear, which is fully adjustable as well. The seat height on this bike is about 32.5 inches, so it definitely gives you a, you know, it's a high seat. I'm 5'7.5". You can tell it comes up to about waist level. When I sit on this bike straight up and down, I sit on the balls of my feet. The front wheel is a 120 by 70 on a 17-inch rim, and the back is a 190 by 55 on a 17-inch rim. Both of them are aluminum rims, which, you know, just saves you some weight if that's something you're looking for, especially for the track. The wheelbase itself is 55.1 inch, and you have a 24-degree rake on the front end with about a 4-inch trail. The length of this bike is about 82.5 inches, width is 31.5, and the height is 47 or 43.7 inches. This bike is definitely a lot wider than my previous bike, but it is a lot shorter. It stands a lot taller. When you look at this bike from the front end, you can tell most of the girth of the bike sits right here on the outsides. Other than that, it is a very well-seated bike. I sat on the MT-09, and I personally didn't like how my legs sat within the center region of the seat here. This definitely gives you a wider seat. I'm definitely a larger guy, so this seat suited me a lot better. I think the first thing I'm going to change on it though is this seat. I'd like to go with the comfort seat that Yamaha does sell, which gives you about 2 inches of gel padding, gets rid of this little knob, gives your passenger, if you choose to ride with a passenger, a little bit more space to sit on, and it gives you more of a ridge down in the lower back area, which I think would be a lot more comfortable, since it's how my old bike was. It just kind of rested on your lower back a lot nicer. That's pretty much it for the suspension, the chassis. Like I said, a lot of that. So like I said, this bike comes with ABS, traction, 3 levels of traction control, and it also has what they call DMAP tuning on the controller, or demapping is what they have it listed as. It also comes with a quick shift capability that's standard on this bike. The quick shifter is, it's pretty awesome. Bike does come standard with it, and it just makes the ride a little bit more fun, especially when you're just, you know, holding the throttle wide open. You can just click right through the gears. It just changes your whole riding style. As far as downshifting goes, this bike really holds itself. As the engine braking, I've heard mixed opinions on it. I was coming down a pretty steep hill on the other end of town, and I was down. I think it downshifted to second gear, and the motor really, it held me back really well. Definitely was not like my 1900. But it definitely did have some good engine braking to it. But it's not obviously as good as the some of the other bikes that you might find. The brakes on this bike, I've also read some mixed opinions on. I definitely don't feel like I have the grippiness that I had on my previous bike. A lot of guys say they just change out the brakes or the brake pads, and it helps that out a little bit. So what I would like to do is I'd like to change the brake lines to the braided steel brake lines, as well as putting the upgraded master cylinder on. It comes with Brembo components. It's pretty much a whole full Brembo setup, but they did try to save some cost for retail by putting on some lower cost pieces to it, which are easily upgradable. This bike also comes with a stainless steel exhaust to a titanium tip, where the R1 comes with full titanium components underneath it. Other than that, you know, like I said, I'll go over some of the rest of the bike with you, as far as, you know, the controls, the what the handlebars look like, and the screen up front. The headlights are straight off the R1. This is also equipped with full LED lighting the whole way around, turn signals, as well as the brake lights and the rear light for the license plate. Other than that, I'm pretty sure I've hit it all. In order to take the seat off, which they don't tell you unless you like really are looking at it, there's like a little tab underneath the back here under the passenger seat that you pull down, and you can actually put the key into it, twist it, the seat slides back, it pops off. So if you're just looking for information like that, that's where that's at. This is also a liquid cooled bike. You have a nice radiator and an intercooler down there, and your tank or reservoir is right here on the right side of the bike as well. So like I said, a few upgrades I want to do. I want to be able to add the top case to the back. I want to add the 2 hard cases, front windshield, and a full protection kit on it for riding, for long distance riding, and be able to do. This also comes standard with a 12-volt outlet for phone or GPS. I'd like to get a mount that goes right in the middle of the handlebars for my phone, and being able to plug that in is a real nice feature as well, instead of having to run separate wires from your battery to a USB port or something. So that makes a real nice feature that you don't find on most bikes, especially bikes like this. All right, so up here, I want to go over some of the controls with you, and the modes that the bike has for different throttle responses, as well as the traction control, the cruise control, and to kind of just show you what the screen itself has. Unlike the R1, this is just a regular LCD screen. The R1 comes with a TFT display, which is fully colored. The one thing to keep in mind is this little red line here for the tachometer. It is just in the screen, it's not actually colored, so it is just a regular LCD screen. So when you turn the key on, it goes through its whole little process here. Looks like I'm running a little low on fuel. Sometimes it doesn't read properly, especially if it's leaning over, so you can always stand it back up and restart it, or sometimes it'll just catch itself and show you there's some more fuel in there. But when you're looking at the screen, you have your time up in the left corner. So right now it's about 1 a.m. You have your tachometer, gear selector right here. QS means that the quick shifter is enabled. If that's not on, it means there's a fault in the system, and you may just have to restart the bike or pull the battery. Sometimes that may or may not go off. So that light, or as long as that's on, it tells you that the quick shifter is enabled. You have your traction control, and on the handlebars, if you can change that. Now you have to be at a complete stop to change it. You can also turn it off as well. And then if you turn it back on, it goes right back to whatever previous setting it was originally in. The 600 is the mileage, so I have 600 on it. I'm not sure why that just changed. Then you have your engine temperature, your speed, and fuel gauge on the side. When this starts to blink is when you hit your reserve. So like I said, you have about a gallon of reserve. And then by hitting here on the left side, there is a select button right off your index finger. By hitting that select button, let's see if I can get this to cooperate with me here. You can pan through the thing. So here's your trip 1, trip 2. This is the trip F. So this is going to start counting up when you are low on fuel. This only pops up when your reserve kicks in, so it lets you know how many miles you've gone on your reserve. So like I said, you get about 30 miles to the gallon. So obviously, if you're riding it lightly, you can probably pull almost all that, out. If you tend to ride a little bit heavier, obviously it won't last you as long. You get your miles per gallon, so it'll give you your live readout of your miles per hour or miles per gallon, and then you have your average, and then right back to your odometer again. And then the 2 that's on the bottom of the screen there next to mode, by hitting the little button over here underneath or on your right side handlebar, by clicking that, you can go through your rider modes, 1, 2, and 3. On the FC10, it is standard A and B. It changed it on some of the bikes just because they, I don't know, it's a little bit different, so they tried to make it just standard. So 1 is the most aggressive mode, 3 being the least aggressive. They recommend 2 for just regular highway riding, 1 more of a track mode, 3 is for rainy days. And then your traction control, you change with your button over here. It is labeled TCS. Press up for, to go down in modes, press down to go up. I don't know why it's backwards. So by pressing on the upward side, your traction control will go down. Level 1 being track mode, level 2 being normal riding, level 3 being your rain. When you're in traction control 3, this bike will tend to cut power out if it starts to pull a wheelie. The first 3 gears, this thing pulls a wheelie at about 7,000 RPMs very casually. I mean, it just, all of a sudden the front end starts coming up off the ground. If you're in traction control 3, it will actually cut the power out and drop the front end back down. 1 and 2, it will allow you to pull the wheel off the ground. I don't know if it prevents you from going a certain distance or what it does. I haven't pushed it to that limit yet. And like I said, you can also turn it off. So if I'm in traction control 2, if you hold in on the top side, it will turn itself off. A little indicator light comes on, and all I have to do is just press down on it. It goes right back to what it previously was. So on the sides of the screen, you can't really see the lights, but right above the turn signal light, there is your high beam light, your turn signal. This is neutral. You have like an oil temperature or some sort of wrench, and then you have your check engine light. On this side, you have your shift light, your right turn signal, your set for your traction or for your cruise control indicator letting you know that it's on. The ABS light goes out when you go about 10 or 15 miles an hour. That'll go out, and then it'll flash if the ABS is kicked in. Same with traction control. If the traction control kicks in, the traction control light will blink as well. The light up here for the shift light is programmable as far as speed of the shift, or if it blinks, or if it'll turn on solid when you hit a certain RPM, and then if you hit like your top limit that you want it at, it'll blink at you. So there's different programs you can do there. You can also program your, your brightness and all that, and then you have your clock button and your reset down here at the bottom. And like I said, I don't know how well you can maybe see it, but down here there is a 12-volt outlet. The handlebars, you have your high beam, also has a pass momentary switch on it, your left and right turn signal, your horn, your traction control comes on, so you can see when you hit that, the little light comes on, and then your resume set or your plus and minus, so it's identical to a car here. When you hit the set, then the light will come on over here, just letting you know that it's on. You have to be in 4th gear, and I believe the minimum speed that I found you can engage it at is at about 27 miles an hour. And it'll hold itself, but it definitely sounds like it's, chugs out a little bit because you are definitely low in RPMs when you're doing, a low speed like that. But it is, it's a fantastic feature, especially when you're, riding long distance, to be able to take that stress off your wrist or whatnot. It's definitely really nice to have. On the right side, you have your start. It's a fully integrated start-stop button. So you just press all the way down to start it, then all the way up to stop. Below that, you have your 4-ways here. So you can see that engages the 4-ways, and then your mode button. So you push it to the left, and then it will switch your modes out for you. And so the DMAP, or demapping for the drive modes, when you're in mode 3, your throttle's at 0%, and then, fully closed, and 100%'s, fully twisted back. When you're in modes 1 and 2, it changes the sensitivity. It's not that it detunes itself or that it ups the tuning on it. If you're in mode 1, which is the most aggressive, your 100% throttle is like a very slight twist on the throttle itself. I figured mode 2, it seems like 50% twist on the throttle. You're at about 100%, as far as the valves opening in the motor. So that's how it works. It just makes it more sensitive because it's a fly-by-wire. Or they call it ride-by-wire technology, and it just changes the valves inside the motor as far as how far they open on the percentage of your twist. So that's how that whole thing works. The front brake does come adjustable with the little knob here. So all you have to do is just pull it forward, twist that knob, and it gives you different settings there. Like I said, it's all LED, so on the front you have a nice little brow light here. I don't know if that's the technical name for it, but since it's on the front, it's right at the top. Brow light. You have your 2 LED turn signals up front. On the back, you have 2 marker lights, your 2 turn signals, and then your license plate light is LED as well. So the back light will stay if I hit the pedal here. So everything does light up when you hit the brakes then, which is It's actually really bright at nighttime, which is really nice as well. A lot of guys were asking if these are vents. These are not actually vents. Inside here are the relays for lights and fuses and stuff like that. And I'm not 100% if the computer's underneath one of those or not. I just happened to look in the manual to see what they were, to see if they were actually active vents, and they are not. So in case any of you were wondering that. So when you start up the bike, like I said, pull back. Little RPM. All right, guys, so I hope this review kind of helped a little bit. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them the best I can. This bike, like I said, you know, I'm coming from a cruiser to a sport bike. This thing rides phenomenal. It's a great piece of machinery. It definitely hugs the road really well, and going around turns, it's flawless. I mean, this thing, it handles really, really well. It's a very comfortable ride, especially with the upright seated position, and I can't complain one bit. I'm going to make another review, I'd say probably about the 3,000 or 5,000 mark, just to kind of let you know where I'm at. And like I said, hopefully in the near future here, I'd like to do install videos as far as the bags and all the protection kits and everything that I'm putting onto it, to hopefully be able to give you a little bit more information on the different things that you can add onto this bike. I appreciate you watching. Like I said, hopefully this was informational for you, and we'll ride safe, and yep.